These types of videos are never pleasant to make or to post, but I feel it's kind of the respectful thing to do and the way of honoring them. So Daisy unfortunately was euthanized this morning on May 6th. So it's been a couple of days with her. So what went on is that she was having some GI issues. She was not keeping food down, and then more importantly, she wasn't even eating. If you could tell one thing from Daisy is that she never missed a meal. She loved food so much. So that's why her not eating was a really big thing. So we got her in for an emergency appointment. They didn't know what was wrong with her, but they're like, maybe her kidneys are failing. Let's do blood work. So they did blood work, and we were like, oh my god, her kidneys are going to be failing, and she is just gonna, be gone soon. And then they said, no, the blood work's fine. We don't know what's wrong with her. So then they're like, we should test her for leukemia. We should do an abdominal x-ray to see if there's a blockage. We should discontinue her aspirin, because that's probably, that could be upsetting her stomach. It could just have been irritating her stomach lining a lot, and that could be it. And that was honestly what we were hoping for, because Daisy, when she was 7 years old, was diagnosed with cardiomyopathy, which is the thickening of the heart muscle, and since then she has been on atenolol and baby aspirin, which both of those are really hard on the stomach, and they gave her a drug that was to prevent vomiting and was basically an anti-inflammatory for the GI tract. At first she did well on it, and then she started vomiting again, and they said if they vomit on this pill, that's 99% of the time it's because there's a blockage. For a blockage, the best thing to do is an ultrasound, although of course we didn't get this information till Thursday night after the specialist that has been monitoring her heart was already closed. So they said call first thing in the morning, see if you can get just schedule an appointment, just get something on the books, and then I will call them and explain it's an emergency and see if they can get you in right away, because they don't do ultrasounds at a regular vet. So this morning we did that, and the oncologist was not in the office that day. They told us to go to like an emergency vet for it, but we don't have the money for an emergency vet. It would have been like maybe $600, and we just don't have that money to spend, especially on a cat that was 15, and we knew there was a blockage, we just didn't know exactly what it was. With Daisy having cardiomyopathy, if there was something that needed to be surgically removed, anesthesia is already very dangerous for her. So even though the vet was completely booked up, they squeezed us in to do a euthanasia this morning, because Daisy was in pain, she was suffering, she's 15, she also was completely eaten up with arthritis. You could tell that even though she was on a joint supplement to help that, when she laid down, she just hurt. Her hips just bothered her so much. But while we can't say definitively what the blockage was, it could have been something as simple as a hairball, we're thinking that the blockage was probably caused by a tumor. She was an old cat. She'd been having stomach issues for a long time that the vet kind of ignored a little bit. We'd bring up, it's like, well, that happens kind of, because we were all just kind of thinking, it's the aspirin or atenolol upsetting her some, Us and the vet kind of believe that's what it most likely was a tumor, because they dealt with other cats that had symptoms like that before, and it was a tumor. So she made it to 15, which is longer than we have had any cat ever. She really beat the odds there, especially considering she had a bad heart, and the atenolol that she's on, it made her really tired. She mostly just laid around and slept all day. She wasn't very playful, and there was quite a few times over the past couple of years we thought she's almost at the end, this is it. But actually something that really made her perk up and definitely gave her not only more comfort but more years of her life was losing weight. So I just want to put this, if you have an obese pet, please put them on a diet, do something, feeding schedules. That's what did it with Daisy. Help them lose weight, because otherwise when they get older, like Daisy, they will go into arthritis, and that is very, very painful, and there's nothing you can really do but try to manage it. But we got Daisy when she was a kitten. She is the first and only cat we have ever adopted from a shelter. All of our other cats have just found us. They've been needed, they've been outside and cold and hungry, and they've just come to us. But Daisy was the only cat we actively sought out to adopt. This is all the way back in 2007. What had happened is I had a cat at that time. It was my first ever cat, and I had her for about a year, and then she got hit by a car. I called her Mama Cat because I was 6 and she had babies on our porch. She had an owner before, but apparently that owner had a bad boyfriend who dumped her cat. When she found out that we had it, she's like, oh, you can just keep the cat. So, I don't know. I dumped the boyfriend. If someone dumped my cat, I would dump them. And she had 6 babies on our porch. One of them went to someone we know, and her name was Gizmo. She was the only female in the entire litter. She actually passed away a couple months back. She lived a very, very long time, and she was very happy, very loved. And I know I'm tying in other cats to Daisy, she's been here for so long, it's kind of hard to talk just about her and not everyone else, but that was the situation that led us to getting Daisy. And actually, before we got Daisy, we got Duke, and he doesn't have a video because he died a couple months after I started doing YouTube. Basically, we saw a free kitten sign, and I wanted a cat so bad. My dad was so against it, like, you're not getting any more cats. We have enough cats as it is. At that time, we had 1. He didn't know what was coming. Oh boy. But we stopped there, and I wanted a little girl. They gave me this kitten. They're like, yes, this is one of the girls. We took the girl to the vet in the morning, and they said, this isn't a Daisy Marie. It's a boy. So we named him Duke, went to a shelter, and got Daisy. Which, worked out. You should always get kittens in pairs. It's so great to raise them in pairs. And I actually really wanted to name her Marie because of Aristocats. I was obsessed with Aristocats at that time, and Marie was my favorite. So that's why her name is Daisy Marie. But Duke and Daisy were inseparable. They slept together, they played together. I think we had to replace the screen on our door a few times because of them, because they would just start climbing it, and it was funny. It would be like one of them would run in and jump as high as they could onto the screen door and jump down, run the other direction, and the other one would come do that. Like, you can do it, I can do it better. It was just, they were just so adorable together. But when Duke and Daisy were 2 years old, Duke got bladder stones, and while bladder crystals and bladder stones are actually very common in male cats, what happened is our regular vet brought another vet into his office. We were there with an emergency, so we were just like, okay, we'll see whoever is available. And this new vet, she said she didn't think he had bladder stones, just crystals, so go home and get a pee sample. She took an x-ray and says it just doesn't show any blockage or anything, so it's fine, just take him home. And all night we watched him, and he just looked worse and worse and worse, and he was trying and he couldn't pee. So the next morning we took him in, and we waited an hour for the vet to come in, just sitting in the lobby. And finally she came in, we handed Duke off to her, and then we were off. About 2:30 we got a call to say that he had passed away. She said that apparently he passed away when she was trying to catheterize him. But the girls in the office knew us, and I don't think they liked her very much either, because they gave us the records for Duke, and they told us that she let him sit in that cage all day, and they kept telling her, you need to do something with this cat, you need to do something with this cat, and she didn't. She let him die. And because they gave us this records, we had some other people look at the x-rays, and they said, this x-ray is so blurry, you can't even see if there is a blockage. And just like that, Daisy lost her best friend. And Daisy took it so hard, because it just so happened that night on our way back we ran into a friend, and she's like, my neighbors have kittens in their garage, and they said, hey, you catch a kitten, it's yours. So we brought home Lily that night that Duke died. So Daisy had a new about 7-8 week old kitten to deal with, and her best friend being dead. When you lose an animal in your house, the other ones, I feel like they need to see. They need to understand. And Daisy, when she saw it, she just hissed, and then she laid on the couch, just staring at the wall. She didn't move for hours. Her eyes never shifted. She just had a blank stare at the wall. She was so heartbroken. I don't think she'd ever been the same since that. She didn't want to play anymore. It was so sad, and Lily just latched onto her. She's so gentle. She didn't want, you know, she'd never hurt a baby. She didn't hiss at Lily or anything as far as I remember. I mean, keep in mind, this was 13 years ago. But Lily kept coming up and sleeping with her, and after a little bit, Daisy would just get up and walk away. But Lily just kept trying and trying. She wanted to be with Daisy. And Daisy was the only cat that I ever put a collar on. This is her original tag. I got her when she was only about, I think she might have been about 3 months old when we adopted her. I'm not entirely sure. The shelter was actually really freaking awful from what I remember. My mom and I, every time we see it, we're like, oh, we're never going back there. Because if I didn't already get attached to this kitten, my mom would have just walked out of there. They were being so rude to us. Like, we are taking a kitten off of your hands. Be nice. They charged us $5 for one of those, like, carrier boxes. One of our friends went there a little bit later and they gave them a box for free. And maybe my memory's off. I remember them having like 20 kittens and essentially just a really big bird cage. Like, maybe an adult human could stand in there, but they wouldn't have a whole lot of room, and that's what the kittens were shoved into. So when we brought her home and I put her collar on her, at first she didn't like it. She reared up on her hind legs and tried to rip it off and stuff, but after like 10-15 seconds she was like, okay, it's fine. The collar is kind of a funny thing because obviously they wear out. They need to be replaced every once in a while. There were times, I remember like when we first got Windsor, where she just got really depressed having another cat in the house. I guess she felt like she was being replaced or something. So I got her a new collar and she just immediately perked up. She was like, oh, a new collar for me? She actually really liked her collar. I don't think I'd put another cat in a collar, but she really loved it after she got used to it as a baby. Man, that first night we brought her home, they told us there that some of the kittens, you know, sucked on your toes and stuff when they opened up the cage, they put their foot in it. Daisy came up, you know, I was laying on the couch watching TV, and Daisy just came up to me and started sucking on my ear. And especially when she was a baby, she comfort sucked until she fell asleep. And she comfort sucked well into her adult life, all the way until the end. And let me tell you, she had the loudest purr you've ever heard. And she always purred when she did that, so it was just the loudest purr in the world in your ear. But it was worth it. My family always joked I was never allowed to get my ears pierced because of Daisy. She wouldn't be able to suck on my ear if I had a piercing. But I don't think there will ever be another cat as sweet and gentle as Daisy. She knew she was my little girl right from the get-go. Her first night in the house, she slept with me. Even recently, if she saw me getting in bed and she wasn't in bed with me, she'd jump up and snuggle up. She went through phases of how she liked to sleep. There was a period she wanted to be at my feet, a period she wanted to be at my hip, a period where she wanted to sleep on top of my head, a period where she wanted to sleep on top of my face. And I let her do that. Then there's periods she wanted to sleep on top of my neck or draped over my side. But her last one is she liked to sleep back to back with me. I'd sleep one side and then she'd sleep the other pressed up against me. Head on my pillow and everything. That was how she liked to sleep. And then I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd roll over and she swapped directions and she put her butt on my pillow. But she was just so gentle. When she needed a bath, especially as she got older, because as cats get older, their tendency to clean themselves goes down, so they really do need some help. And she would cry and try and move out of the way of the water and stuff, but she never scratched, she never bit, which is a big contrast to Pete, because he needed a bath recently. He bit the crap out of me. But Daisy never bit anyone, really. She was just so docile. But as she got older, I think maybe her vision was starting to go. Maybe she was going into some kitty Alzheimer's, because there'd be times where she'd walk around the house and just wail. And then you'd call her name and she'd come running to you like she forgot where she was, or she didn't know what was going on. She used to do that when she was a little baby because she didn't know where I was, and I'd call for her and she'd come running to me as fast as she could. But this time, you know, as an adult, she knew where I was because she just left the room. So I think her mind was going. And then sometimes she got really easily startled because she'd be sleeping on my bed a lot. And Lily would jump up and she would hiss and smack at Lily. and then calmed down after she saw who it was. She was so easily startled, and she was getting to be a grouchy old lady. There was one time when she was maybe about a year or so old that I got her riled up, and then she went to bite me. She put her teeth around my arm and then just stopped. And then she let go and she wouldn't look at me. She looked so ashamed, and she wouldn't play anymore after that. She's like, I got carried away and I was gonna hurt someone I love. She was the most gentle cat in the world. And she hurt with arthritis and she slept a lot, but she wanted to be with us. And she was happy to be with us. I am very grateful I had the time I did with her. It doesn't feel like it's enough. There were plenty of times where I thought it was going to be cut short because with her heart issues, it can cause blood clots. And she did suffer a few strokes, and she had a head tilt for a long time. She lost her balance. She couldn't jump anymore. Her hips hurt her. She had no sense of balance. If she wanted on my mom's bed, she had to climb up, which I know was painful for her. Thankfully, I have a low bed, so she was able to jump up on that, but even once in a while, she missed the jump on it, and she needed help. So this was her last collar. I actually bought it for like 2 years ago, but I didn't put it on her because her current one wasn't worn out, and I figured she should wear it at least a couple days. And this was actually the charm that came on her first collar. It was glow in the dark at one point, but I think it's just gotten so old. I mean, it's 15 years old at this point. I also feel like I just need to address that this is not the Webkinz for Daisy. This is the first time I am making one of these videos where I don't have a Webkinz for the cat that passed away, I think. And that's because Gans never made one. I submitted designs that were for contests and stuff, and they never got picked, and Gans just never made one. The closest I think that could come to her is the Sterling Cheeky Cat, but at the same time, that's really silver, and she was brown. Yeah, I don't have a plush of her. Anyways, thanks for watching. I know these videos are not pleasant, but she had a good run. So I'll see you in the next one. Later. Do you want to show me what you were doing? Do you want to show me what you just did? God. You are so bad. You are so bad. She was purring before because she was so happy catching these mice.